Ethan Park had cleaned the 47th floor executive wing of Sterling Innovations for almost 5 years, long enough to memorize the rhythm of the building, the way the lights hummed at dawn, the way the conference rooms smelled faintly of coffee and nerves, the way stressed managers paced while whispering into Bluetooth headsets. As a single dad who had clawed his way through every bill by working double shifts, Ethan didn't complain. He couldn't afford to. His son Liam depended on him, and every mop swipe, every repaired fuse, every late-night emergency fix meant food on the table and inhalers stocked in the kitchen drawer. That morning, however, something felt off the moment he stepped through the polished hallway. People were whispering, not the usual, "Did you see the memo?" kind of whispering. This was sharper, colder. When Ethan turned the corner, the billionaire CEO himself, Adrian Sterling, was standing outside his glass office with his hands clasped behind his back, watching Ethan approach like a man studying a puzzle piece. Ethan froze. He had spoken to the CEO only twice in his life, both times brief, polite, nothing that would justify the way Adrian now stared at him with an expression between curiosity and calculation. "Morning, sir," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice even. "I'm just here to—" Adrian cut him off. "Ethan Park," he said, voice emotionless. "You're fired." The words crashed like a hammer. "Fired." Ethan blinked, certain he'd misheard. "Sir, you heard me." Adrian's face was unreadable, a wall of ice. Ethan's throat tightened. "Can I at least know why?" "No. Pack your things." His heart pounded. His palms went cold. The world blurred as he tried to steady the panic rising like a tidal wave. Rent was due in 11 days. Liam's field trip payment was overdue. His son's asthma medication. He couldn't lose insurance. "Not like this. I've never been late," Ethan said softly. "Never damaged anything. Sir, if I made a mistake, please tell me so I can fix it." "This isn't up for discussion," Adrian said. Ethan stood there, defeated, holding a rag in one hand and his dignity hanging by a thread. The CEO didn't move, didn't blink, didn't justify it. He simply turned and walked back into his corner office as if firing a man was as routine as checking email. Ethan gathered his tool bag quietly, not that there was much to pack, just a few old screwdrivers, a set of wrenches, electrical tape, and a photo Liam had drawn of the two of them standing in front of their apartment building. As he walked down the hall, coworkers peered out with pitying looks. A manager whispered, "Poor guy," as though Ethan couldn't hear her. But he kept his head down. Ethan knew what happened to men who broke down in public. They were mocked, labeled unstable, or ignored altogether. The elevator doors slid shut, sealing him away from the floor where he had spent so many nights fixing broken heaters and jammed locks, the same floor where he had eaten sandwiches alone during graveyard shifts. When he stepped into the lobby, he inhaled deeply, trying to keep his shoulders from shaking. His life had just collapsed in the span of a single sentence. He pushed through the glass doors and stepped onto the icy sidewalk, barely hearing the traffic, barely seeing the world. He had to call the school. No, he had to find another job. Quickly, anything. Before panic could fully consume him, a voice came from behind. "Ethan." Adrian Sterling stood beside the revolving door, hands in his coat pockets, looking unsettlingly calm for someone who had just ruined a man's life. Ethan swallowed hard. "Sir," he said softly, "I'd like to go home." "Before you do," Adrian said, tilting his head, "tell me something." Ethan kept his gaze steady. "Yes, sir." "Why aren't you angry?" Adrian asked. "Why aren't you shouting, demanding an explanation, threatening to sue me? Most men would be clawing at my throat right now." Ethan let out a slow breath, the cold air stinging his lungs. "Because anger won't make you give me my job back," he said quietly. "And because I have a son waiting for me. I don't have time to explode." For the first time that morning, Adrian's gaze faltered, just a flicker. He didn't respond. He simply nodded once and walked away, leaving Ethan with the bitter wind and a life suddenly stripped bare. Ethan didn't know it yet, but those calm, tired words had just completely changed the billionaire's plans. Part 2. Ethan walked no more than 10 steps before a sleek black SUV pulled up beside him. The window slid down, revealing Adrian Sterling again, his expression no longer icy but unreadably tense. "Get in," Adrian said. Ethan froze. "Sir, with respect, I don't work for you anymore." "Get in," Adrian repeated, firmer. Against every instinct screaming at him, Ethan slid into the back seat. The moment the door clicked shut, Adrian said, "You're not fired." Ethan stared, disbelieving. What? It was a test. Ethan's jaw tightened, anger rising now that he'd found the space to breathe. "You humiliated me for a test." Adrian didn't look away. "Yes, and you passed." Ethan's fists curled. "Sir, that's not a test, that's cruelty." "Maybe," Adrian murmured, "but I needed to be certain." Before Ethan could speak, Adrian leaned forward slightly. 3 months ago, someone inside this building stole $27 million from a restricted development fund. Not a single outsider could have accessed it. That means someone senior, someone trusted, betrayed us. Ethan blinked. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything," Adrian said, "because I needed to find someone who can't be bought. Someone whose integrity isn't just a performance." Ethan shook his head. "Sir, I'm a maintenance technician. And you think that makes you less capable of honesty?" Adrian asked softly. 2 weeks ago, you spent your lunch break helping a young intern who fainted in the hallway. You bought her a meal with your own money." Ethan blinked. "You saw that." "I see everything," Adrian said. "Last month, the wheelchair lift malfunctioned in the west stairwell. Repair authorization would have taken a week. You fixed it yourself and paid for parts out of pocket." Ethan swallowed. He hadn't told anyone, not even Liam. "You think I don't notice?" Adrian continued. "But I do. I've been watching you for months." Ethan stiffened. "Why?" "Because your name came up in a conversation," Adrian said. "Someone in upper management mocked you. Called you the Invisible Man. Said no one would notice if you vanished." Ethan flinched. He knew people looked down on him, but hearing it confirmed was a different kind of pain. "That made me curious," Adrian said. "So I watched. And I learned that you are the kind of man who works quietly, who never complains, who sacrifices without recognition. A man who stays calm even when life crushes him." Ethan stared at him, stunned. Adrian continued, voice softer. "Anyone can perform goodness when their salary depends on it. I needed to see who you were when everything was taken from you. And you showed me." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Sir, I just want to take care of my son. That's all." "Exactly why I need you," Adrian said. "You're the only person I can trust to help me investigate the theft. You don't owe favors to anyone inside this company. You don't play politics. You're not part of their networks. You're the perfect outsider." Ethan shook his head. "But I'm not trained for corporate investigations." "Skills can be taught," Adrian said. "Integrity cannot." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Adrian said, "The position is internal ethics and security liaison. You'd report only to me. Triple your current salary, full health coverage, and education scholarships for your son until university." Ethan felt his breath catch. Liam, his sweet boy who dreamed of being an engineer but knew his father struggled to afford textbooks. Adrian wasn't done. "You'll receive a company apartment, a relocation stipend, and a personal development budget, courses, certifications, anything you need to excel." Ethan's vision blurred. He looked away, swallowing hard. "Sir, why would you give all of this to me?" Adrian's voice softened to something almost vulnerable. "Because this company is rotting from the inside out. And men like you, they remind me of what it was built to be." Ethan wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed. "So I'm not fired?" "No," Adrian said with the faintest smile. "You're promoted." Ethan let out a shaky laugh, half relief, half disbelief. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Adrian replied. "And help me save this company." Ethan exhaled, the weight of the morning shifting from crushing to overwhelming in a different way. He thought of Liam's smile, the nights he had pretended everything was fine, the sacrifices he made quietly. Then he nodded. "Yes, I'll do it." Adrian nodded once, satisfied. "Good. Then let's begin." As the SUV pulled away from the curb, Ethan realized something astonishing. After years of being invisible, someone had finally seen him. And not just seen him, believed in him. It wasn't the end of his story. Not anymore. It was the beginning of everything he never thought he deserved.